So the Phoenix Mercury have done it again. And what is it again? They have found some random international player. And by random, I mean this. Like, if you had have had international players on my radar, Nogic would not have been in the top 30. Like, I knew of Astier, I knew of Chikova, Maria Conde playing for the Tempo, who kind of sucked. Even like Kiara Linskins and stuff. I watched little bits of Serbia when they were playing. I've watched little bits of Serbia, but like, I've not watched enough to like be like, oh yeah, she was that great player. I'm like, I wasn't even paying attention anytime I've seen Serbia.
Stephanie White looked at the box score and felt the air leave the room. While the Indiana Fever were busy celebrating sold-out arenas and jersey sales, the Phoenix Mercury were busy signing a literal demon from the Serbian national team. Jovana Nogic didn't just walk onto the court. She set it on fire, putting up 19 points and 3 assists in a single half of basketball. It was a performance so dominant, it made the Fever's entire offseason strategy look like a high school project. White realized in that moment that she wasn't just fighting other teams. She was fighting her own front office's refusal to look beyond the American border.
To be honest here, I think they just seem to find these players. But like what Jovana Nogic did, like this was one of the best performances. And I'm not saying this is one of the best performances by a rookie so far. This is obviously the best performance by a rookie. There is no way that like Nogic like this might be the best performance so far, period. Like, they won the game, and it was basically...
The disparity was hauntingly clear as the Mercury's new secret weapon dismantled her opponents with ease. We are talking about a 6'1" guard who was available on a league minimum contract, a player most scouts didn't even have in their top 30. Yet Phoenix found her while Indiana sat on their hands. It is the kind of scouting failure that keeps coaches up at night, wondering how a talent like that could be left on the table. For Stephanie White, the realization is starting to sink in that Caitlin Clark is being forced to carry a load that no rookie, no matter how generational, should ever have to handle alone.
I watch I watch half the fucking EuroLeague games. I watch random Euro Cup games. I feel like I'm up to date, but like, no. Like, I did not realize they had this demon. I did not realize that this demon existed. And you could have signed this demon on the minimum. Like, this demon was available on the minimum, and she's big. She's like a 6'1" guard. And again, nobody thought she was meant to be starting. But when you can sign this demon, like, that is the only way I can describe it. Is this freaking demon that is Jovana Nogic.
If you look at what Nogic did, it is arguably the best performance by any rookie or newcomer this entire season. She didn't just play well, she owned the flow of the game, scoring or assisting on 25 points in the first half alone. That is nearly half of her team's total production, while the Fever are struggling to find anyone who can consistently knock down a shot when Clark gets double teamed. The Mercury were up by 21 at the half because they took a chance on international talent that the Fever front office seemingly didn't even know existed. It is a level of negligence that is becoming impossible to ignore.
It's one of the crazy things again. And by the way, she had 19 points, 3 assists, 2 steals in the first half. In the first half. It is the best half a player has played this season, including anything Kelsey Mitchell did, Arike did, anything. But like, in the first half, she scored or assisted on 20. Like, the Mercury were up 20 at halftime, or 21 at halftime. They were up 56-35. Nogic scored or assisted on 25 points in the first half. Like, almost half. Like, that is impressive. I mean that.
The frustration in the Fever camp is palpable because this isn't just about one player. Look at the Minnesota Lynx, a team that was supposed to be rebuilding after losing their core pieces. Instead, they are thriving because they found players like Alana Smith and Cecilia Zandalasini who can actually play the game at a high level. They found confident professional athletes who understand spacing and ball movement. Meanwhile, the Fever are rostered with players who seem to be there for the vibes, rather than the buckets. It is a stark contrast that highlights a massive gap in how these organizations are being run from the top down.
It might not have been the best decision, but being able to get to pry Stephanie White away from the Connecticut Sun is impressive considering her resume. And I think Stephanie White, look, if Caitlin Clark was not on the Fever, Stephanie White would be an unbelievable coach. Like, if Caitlin Clark, if the Fever decide tomorrow and say, look, we're done with this shit, and trade Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White is a fantastic coach. Let's just say, what's the asking price for Caitlin Clark? You're not getting Paige anymore in a trade for Caitlin. The asking price for Caitlin is probably, look, the
most damning part of this entire situation is that these international demons are available for pennies on the dollar. You could have signed a game changer like Nogic on a minimum contract, yet the Fever front office decided to fill their bench with 30-something-year-old veterans who aren't even seeing the floor. Why are we seeing players like Tori Walker-Kimbrough sitting at the end of the bench for no reason? There is not one good team in this league that carries a washed veteran playing 0 minutes in Game 1. It is a waste of a roster spot that could have gone to a hungry elite talent from the EuroLeague.
Caitlin Clark likes to play basketball, and that's a fair statement to make. I think the fit is still questionable going into year 2. That being said, like, their front office scouting is pathetic. And we are watching teams go out there with European players that, by the way, we're watching teams go out with European players on minimum contracts that are significantly inferior on paper to the Fever, that Mick Talks Hoops was making videos about. Like, I'm sorry, there's no reason why. I'd be shocked if the front office knows about some of these players. I watched nearly every Valencia game last year.
Stephanie White is a fantastic coach, perhaps one of the best in the business, but even a master chef can't cook a 5-star meal with spoiled ingredients. If Caitlin Clark wasn't on this roster, White would be hailed as a tactical genius for what she's trying to do. But with the spotlight of the world on Indiana, every hole in this roster is magnified 1,000 times. The front office's failure to provide her with international depth is leaving her exposed. It's starting to look like White was brought in to save a ship that the executives forgot to actually build before they pushed it out into the ocean.
Every single Praha game in EuroLeague last year, I watched Zaragoza play to watch Carla Late. Like, if I'm the Fever front office, I understand it means more to say every game is a home game and flaunt the fact that, you know, your home tickets are actually now the cheapest in the league. But you fill out away arenas, I guess. It's good to flaunt all that. It's good to run a pre-ting victory lap. But, like, I'm sorry. If I was Amber Cox or I was Kelly Krauskopf, I literally... It's different. You know you can get a 3-month tour.
The scouting department for the Fever needs to be held accountable for this absolute disaster. If I am Amber Cox or Kelly Krauskopf, I am not spending my winter in the United States. I am on a plane to Valencia. I am in Prague. I am watching every single Euro Cup game until my eyes bleed. You cannot find the next international superstar from a desk in Indianapolis. You have to be on the ground, watching these players in the trenches. The fact that random fans and independent analysts know more about the Serbian national team's depth than a professional WNBA front office is a fireable offense in any other industry.
Visa for Europe. If you're American, you can get a 3-month tourist visa. I would not be in the United States between October and December. Free agency is at the end of January. I would be not in the United States between October and December. Like, you are flying everywhere. You're watching Czech League games. You're watching every Praha game. You're watching every game of these top teams. Maybe you don't go to Russia, but you're being chauffeured around on these teams. That's what you should be doing. I'd fucking love that. That would literally be my dream job. That would be my dream job.
It feels like the Fever are taking a pre-tank victory lap just because they have the most famous player on the planet. They are flaunting the fact that every game is a home game and that their ticket prices are skyrocketing. But what happens when the winning doesn't follow the hype? Fans aren't going to keep paying premium prices to watch a team that can't find a secondary creator to save their lives. The front office is focused on the business side of the Caitlin Clark effect, while completely ignoring the basketball side that actually makes that effect sustainable over the long term. Every other competitive team in the league has figured out the secret formula. Find the European gems. The Atlanta Dream and the Minnesota Lynx are out there finding players who can hit the three and defend multiple positions. They are building modern rosters while the Fever are stuck in a legacy mindset. Watching the Lynx play right now, you see players who are ready to contribute immediately. They don't look lost, they don't look intimidated, and they certainly don't look like they're just there for the ride. They are professional basketball players who are found through diligent global scouting. The pressure on Stephanie White is becoming unbearable because she knows what she's missing. She knows that the way Caitlin Clark likes to play basketball requires a specific type of teammate. Clark needs players who can run the floor, read the defense in transition, and knock down open shots without hesitation. Many of the top players in the Spanish and Russian leagues fit that description perfectly, yet for some reason the Fever chose to ignore those markets entirely. It leaves White in a position where she has to force a square peg into a round hole every single night on national television. We are watching a generational talent in Caitlin Clark get doubled and tripled every time she crosses half court, and there is no one there to make the defense pay. That is a direct result of a front office that refused to go out and get a demon like Negligence. When you have a player like Clark, your only job as a GM is to surround her with gravity. You need shooters who the defense is terrified to leave open. Instead, the Fever have a roster that allows opponents to sell out on Clark because they know the rest of the team isn't a consistent threat. It is a tactical nightmare for any coach. The asking price for a player like Caitlin Clark is astronomical, potentially involving multiple first-round picks and superstars like Chelsea Gray. But Indiana doesn't need to trade her, they just need to support her. The tragedy is that the support she needs was available for a minimum contract in Europe. The front office didn't need to give up assets, they just needed to do their homework. They could have had a roster that complemented her skills perfectly without breaking the bank. Instead, they chose the path of least resistance, and now they are paying the price in the standings. If I were running this team, my dream job would be traveling the world to find these missing pieces. I'd be watching under 20B games in Europe just to see if a player like Icha Sivka has improved. I'd be at every Valencia game, every Prague game, scouting the talent that the rest of the league is clearly capitalizing on. The fact that the Fever leadership isn't doing this is mind-blowing. They are leaving talent on the table while their superstar gets battered and bruised every night. It's not just a lack of effort, it's a lack of vision for what this team could actually become. Stephanie White was an incredible hire, but the fit is becoming a major question mark because of the personnel she was handed. She is a coach who thrives on structure and high-level execution, but her roster is currently built on hope and marketing. If the Fever decided tomorrow that they were done with this current trajectory, White would still be an unbelievable coach elsewhere, but here she is being set up to fail. You can see the frustration in her eyes every time a play breaks down because a teammate wasn't in the right spot or failed to recognize a basic defensive rotation. The international market is where the WNBA's middle class is built. Not everyone can be a #1 overall pick, but you can find elite role players across the ocean who have been playing professional ball since they were 16. These players bring a level of maturity and basketball IQ that is often missing from young American rosters. By ignoring this entire segment of the talent pool, the Fever have effectively decided to compete with one hand tied behind their back. It is a self-inflicted wound that is bleeding the team dry while the rest of the league moves forward into the future. Think about the message this sends to Caitlin Clark. She comes into the league with the highest expectations in history, and her reward is a front office that can't be bothered to scout a Serbian guard who could have changed their entire offensive dynamic. It shows a lack of commitment to winning right now. The Fever seem content to just exist in the spotlight rather than dominating it. For a competitor like Clark, that has to be incredibly frustrating. She shouldn't have to be the best player, the best passer, and the best recruiter all at the same time. The contrast between the Fever and the Mercury couldn't be more dramatic. Phoenix is an organization that understands how to leverage every possible resource to stay competitive. They aren't afraid to take risks on international players because they know the reward is a player like Nogic who can drop 20 and a half. The Fever, on the other hand, seem terrified of the unknown. They would rather sign a player they've heard of who can't play anymore than a player they haven't heard of who could actually help them win a championship. It is a coward's approach to roster building. We are seeing teams like the Sky pulling the trigger on massive trades and the Mercury finding diamonds in the rough, while Indiana remains stagnant. The front office is relying on the fact that they have the biggest draw in the league to cover up their mistakes. But eventually, the novelty of the sellout crowds will wear off if the team is constantly underperforming. Fans want to see Caitlin Clark win, not just play. If the front office doesn't wake up and start taking scouting seriously, they are going to waste the most valuable years of the greatest prospect the league has ever seen. The reality is that Stephanie White is shattered by this because she knows how close they could be with just 2 or 3 more professional pieces. She's watching other coaches get gifted international superstars on minimum deals while she's trying to figure out how to get production out of a bench that shouldn't even be in the league. It is a heartbreaking situation for a coach of her caliber. She deserves better, Caitlin Clark deserves better, and the fans who are selling out these arenas deserve a front office that works as hard as the players do on the court. There is no excuse for a professional basketball team to be this disconnected from the global game. In 2024, every game is available to watch. You can scout the Spanish League from your couch if you have to. But the Fever seem to be stuck in a bubble, convinced that the only talent that matters is the talent they already know. It is a provincial mindset in a global era, and it is holding back the entire organization. Until they embrace the demons of the international game, they will always be a step behind the teams that actually want to win titles. The narrative that the Fever are young and learning is a convenient excuse for a front office that failed to do its job. You don't have to be old to be professional, you just have to be good at basketball. The international players that other teams are signing are often younger than the veterans Indiana is clinging to, yet they provide 10 times the value. The Fever are choosing to stay young in all the wrong ways, and old in all the worst ways. It is a recipe for mediocrity that is threatening to derail the entire Stephanie White era before it even truly begins. The clock is ticking on this season and on the patience of the fan base. Every game that goes by where an international signing dominates for another team is a reminder of what the Fever could have been. The front office needs to stop taking victory laps for ticket sales and start taking accountability for the roster they've assembled. If they don't, they are going to find themselves with a frustrated superstar and a legendary coach who realizes she made a massive mistake coming to Indianapolis. The talent is out there, the Fever just have to be brave enough to find it. Ultimately, the story of this season isn't just about Caitlin Clark's transition to the pros. It's about the systemic failure of an organization to meet her halfway. Stephanie White is doing everything she can with the tools she was given, but those tools are blunt and outdated. Until the Fever front office realizes that the world of basketball is bigger than the 50 states, they will continue to leave their stars alone on an island. The demons are out there, winning games for other teams, while Indiana is left wondering why their hype isn't translating into wins.